to Coffey Talk, real stories from real people. I'm your host, Kate Coffey-Bacon, and every Monday we'll sit down for honest conversations about successes, failures, and the lessons we learn from both. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's talk. Welcome back to Coffey Talk. Today's conversation is about change, not the flashy kind, but the quiet kind. The seasons where you're doing the work, you're showing up, you're staying grateful, but there isn't a highlight reel to point to at the end of the year yet. This is not a how I crushed it episode. This is about trust, patience, and becoming. Today, I'm joined by someone who has lived every version of change. Shannon Mullins is a Microsoft MVP, founder of a BC consulting group, a global speaker, a community builder, and a single mom. We also just launched a brand new IAMCP Tennessee, Kentucky chapter together. IAMCP stands for International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners. It's such a mouthful. But beyond the titles and the awards, Shannon is one of the most steady, grounded people I have ever known. She is a leader who shows up in the in-between season. She is a friend who believes before proof ever shows up. Shannon, welcome to Coffey Talk.
Thank you, Kate, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
This is going to be such a great talk. This is something that you and I have both lived so well, the in-between. This one was really important for me to talk about something as we start a new year. It is okay if you don't have a huge highlight reel of accomplishments for the last year. That is okay. It is coming. So that is what I really wanted to talk about. And Shannon and I have such a similar story, and I know that she and I can talk for days about this one. So Shannon, before we dive into this Coffey Talk around change, give the audience a deeper understanding of your career, where you started and where you are now.
Yeah, that's a great topic. I actually have a graduate degree in accountancy. I got that while I was raising two kids, but I started my career off in accounting, which actually led me into the Microsoft world. So I was never planning on being a lifelong Microsoft Dynamics person. But one of my first jobs right out of college was for a mortgage company that was switching from QuickBooks to Dynamics. At that moment, it was Dynamics GP, so on-prem. And that just was kind of a catalyst. I've seen all these memes of, in your 20s, you'll be doing this and you should do it. That was my you should do it moment. In my 20s, I took that job, and it was kind of the catalyst of everything that's happened since then. So my whole career has been in, accounting, private accounting, and then Dynamics, and went from GP to cloud, and went from me being a controller to a consultant, and then eventually running practices, consultancy practices, and then now running my own. So it's been 25 years with Dynamics since I first started using the products, which is really wild.
Your career has been built through change, so much change, from business ownership, now parenthood, community leadership. I think you've won just about every award that's out there to win. But we know that not all of the years come with trophies. So let's start right there. What does change feel like when you're inside of it, not after it?
Oh boy. Well, let's talk about 3 years ago when I started this company. I had a moment, and a lot of people don't know this, but I had just built a practice. I had to walk away from it with two partners. It was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. It was my second big leave from a practice, and this one was not intentional. And I was just beside myself. And at that point, it was like, I'm not going to go work for someone else. I'm ready to do this on my own. And it was the scariest moment of my life. In fact, I had dreamed of that moment for so long, but to be pushed into that and to not have a plan, my plan was get a logo, get a website, we'll see what happens. It was such a faith walk, like seriously, such a faith walk, because I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I knew I could do it. I had to push myself. I had to believe in myself. And when we talk about years where you're just like, there was no trophy, there was no achievement award, there was other than we made it to December from February, and we had actually had a profitable year. And it was like, okay, this is something that we can do. But at that point, it was very hard to know, is this going to be successful? Is this not? What does the future look like? I was just glad to be surviving at that point. Changes, it's very, very scary. I will say those are some of the scariest moments. I've never had panic attacks in my life, but that year was like a year of panic attacks and not being able to sleep. And then we've gone to, okay, we can do this. It's going to be difficult, but we can get through it. And yeah, that was not a year where at the end of the year, I was like, wow, I did this and this and this. I was like, okay, we did it. We made it through the year and here we are.
Most people want certainty before they make that big move. You just moved anyway. So trying to think about how I want to word this. How have you learned to manage change without trying to control every outcome? Because we can't.
Yeah, that's a huge one, especially as a business owner, right? There's so many possibilities of what could happen. And in our world with software, with the economy, with the way businesses run, it's all trivial. Like it could be a rock solid year, it could be a non-rock solid year, like you're always, walking on faith. I think for me, faith has come into play hugely, because if I didn't have faith, if I didn't have, something to turn to, I would just be probably really trying to control it a lot more and really struggling. But I've had to learn to let go. I've had to learn how to just trust a little bit that things are going to fall into the place that they're going to fall. And at the end of the day, if they don't fall the way I was expecting to, that something different's going to come along, that's going to take its place. So I think it's really a struggle, especially as business owners. A lot of people don't realize you're by yourself a lot of the time, like your decision making, where your thoughts are, especially when you're a small company. You don't have a board, you don't have all these people you can turn to. And sometimes a lot of stuff is confidential, like you can't share it. So it can be a lonely journey as well.
I was just talking to a friend of mine a couple of days ago that's kind of in this messy middle place. And it just so happens that she met me as I was coming out of it. So she doesn't know me. You don't know me in the messy middle. I had so many years where, you start seeing those holiday posts come through and, the New Year's post, here's all the things that happened to me. And my reel was, I literally stayed alive and I fed the kids and got the kids where they needed to go. And, I paid the bills and that was it. And that for me, I knew that something bigger, can't say bigger, better, something different was coming. I was single for a very long time and just focused on raising my kids. And you're right, Shannon, those days were so lonely for me. And that's not, I don't say that like, woe is me. I say that so that I never take for granted where I am now. And
Absolutely.
my goodness, league of friends that I have, the encouragement that I get, just truly the friendships that I have, it was worth waiting for. I feel like it's important to say, the messy middle can be such a beautiful place of self-discovery, of growth, of looking at yourself. You just know, you're like, that thing didn't get me. If that thing didn't get me, nothing's gonna get me. Like I've got this. I said in my introduction that you are one of truly the most grounded I've met. We've been through some things together that were shaking and rocking. And every time I talked to you, I just felt like I was able to come back to the earth, like ground down. What for you in times of that uncertainty and that change, how do you stay grounded?
Oh, that's a great question. I found ways to really kind of relieve stress. Lately, for me, it's been walking outside or going to the gym or just finding a way to kind of like free my mind. But I think in the other hand, I've just been through so much since 2011 when my mom and my grandmother passed away the same week. And that was like the hardest year of my life. And everything after that has been like, okay, if I can get through that year, which was so difficult personally. Going through a divorce 5 years ago, that was so difficult, so emotional, which, you know all about that. And so it's like these things, and then becoming a single mom, it pushes you to where you're like, okay, these things are not so difficult. And sometimes I think we like to have a mentality of just feeling sorry for ourselves all the time, right? Like, these things are so terrible. Why are they happening to me? It's awful. But sometimes you have to be like, okay, these things are happening for a reason. I don't think anything's been put in my life that hasn't happened for a reason, that has pushed me or catalyzed me to go somewhere else. including work, including personal life, including, being a single mom in the holidays, not a fun thing. But I know that's pushing me to become a better person for whatever's in store for me. And so I think a lot of times we need to change our mentality and be like, okay, why am I going through this? Whatever this is, right? And then will I be more grateful on the other side? And usually the answer is yes. Like it's going to make you more grateful. You're going to feel more at peace with what's going on around you, because if you know you can survive some things, then sometimes the other things just seem so trivial, I think is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think right before I met you, and I would say very few people know this about my story, but right before I met you, they say there are 5 things that you go through in your life that are like the most stressful things. A month before I started at UST, I lost my brother very suddenly, very tragically. I'm still, it's been almost 4 years and we're still absolutely grieving. We did not expect it. And then about 2 weeks later, I found out that I was going to have to very suddenly move myself and my 2 daughters. So Sterling and I decided to move in together. And about a week later, I got my job at UST. So totally new industry for me to start in. So death, moving, not marriage, but moving in with, with my person, and starting a new job. Like all of these things were good things, but my goodness, I felt lost. I just felt like I was scrambling. And I remember this is something I've carried with me, and I've given this advice to my daughters. When you see something on the horizon that's coming, that's shaking, find something every day that is grounding. And
Mm.
for me, it is my cup of coffee every single day, no matter where in the world I am. I'm going to have my cup of coffee, and that is never going to change. That is my grounding moment. It is the same every single day. And that moment, getting up every morning, going to the kitchen, when I'm looking around, I'm like, everything in my life is different right now. Every single thing in my life is different, but this one thing is the same. And I can't control anything, but I can control this cup of coffee. And it was just that tiny little thing that helped me to, just take the next step. Even if the next step meant the next sip, just take the next step. So for me, that's what it is: getting outside, walking, moving your body. So turning back to you, I'm going to ask you for your advice. What would you say to someone who feels behind right now?
I think, biggest thing is to not give up hope, right? No matter where you're at in your life, not give up hope. Like if you have a dream or you have, something you're going for, don't give up hope. Learn to find some contentness in the situation in which you're in. You can't really control it sometimes, but learn to find that contentness. Like, okay, well, I'm not really in the job that I like right now, but I'm going to find something about that job I like. I like my coworker. I like my flexible schedule. I like something, right? So find some contentment. But I think another good piece of advice is just push yourself, right? Like find a way to say, okay, going into 2026, every week I'm going to do this one thing that's going to help me towards that goal, whatever that goal is, right? Whether that's finding a new job and you need to go search for careers and you need to reach out to recruiters. Maybe you're on an educational path and you want to go back to school, find the resources, see if there's grants, so there's ways to kind of start to motivate yourself to say, okay, I have this goal. We're going to take one baby step a week towards working towards that goal and figure out how we're going to accomplish it. When you do that, when you break it down smaller, then it starts to feel like you're actually moving towards that goal. Even if you don't get it done in 26, you're at least moving towards that goal. And then just don't give up hope, right? If it doesn't happen overnight, that's okay. It could happen the next day. It could happen the next year. Like we don't really know what's going to happen, but we know what we can control each day, each week. So I think baby steps is always good.
Yeah. Uh, you're such a huge community builder. You're everywhere in the community. You are a pillar in the community. I am very excited to be building something brand new with you with IAMCP, which is a huge act of trust for both of us. We just leaned in together and took off into it. Why do you think community matters so much during seasons of change?
Oh gosh, I think I'll go back to 23 when everything happened to me and I had switched, names and brands and all of that. The community that I built around myself for the last 10 years just was so amazing during that time. It was a time where I didn't really have a lot of people I could lean on. I didn't have coworkers. I didn't have a lot of family because I was going through divorce. And so my community, my people just reached out and, hey, are you okay? How's it going? And so, when I give to the community, it's because the community has given so much to me over the years. I'm just so grateful. I'll go, to a conference and it's like a family reunion. I tell everyone that. I'm like, it's a big family reunion, whether it's clients, whether it's partners, whether it's ISVs. We're all in this together. We're all in the same kind of industry, the same kind of niche, and we see each other year after year, conference after conference, and you build these friendships and these relationships. And, it's just invaluable. Like I can't even express that. And then also just giving back to the community, it's so warming. When you know that you've done something to help someone else. If someone comes up to you and like, hey, you gave this speech, it really helped me. Or you really motivated. I've had a lot of women come up and say, you've really motivated me to become a business leader, to maybe start my own practice one day, to, further my career. And those things are like so heartwarming, right? If you see someone and they're like, hey, you're changing my life, you're like, oh boy, like that's so amazing. I love it. Like those things are just like priceless to me. You can't put a dollar value on them.
I agree wholeheartedly. I do so much in our community because the community gives to me first, and it's the least that I can do to offer time and space just to give back. Shannon, if someone is listening right now and they want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So look up Shannon Mullins, Microsoft MVP. You'll find me on there. Or you can reach out to me via our website, abccgroup.com, and I'll reach out to you if you reach out to me. But would love to hear from anyone who has any feedback or is just curious on, getting started or finding hope. Any of those things.
That's perfect. Today, I always enjoy my chats with you. My big takeaway from you today is leadership and jumping without certainty, keeping the hope, becoming before necessarily arriving, and just keeping the faith and moving forward. You reminded me how powerful it is to trust the process and always to stay grounded. The way that you're always grounded, it truly is an inspiration to me. Friends, if you are there too, if you're in that space, remember you're not behind. You're right where you need to be. Until next time, keep building and keep going. Thank you for joining us today on Coffey Talk. A special thanks to my guests for sharing their story and to you, the listener, for being a part of this conversation. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a Monday morning chat. Until next time, I'm Kate Coffey-Bacon, and this has been Coffey Talk.